All right, welcome. So this video is having patience and trusting the process, which is, in my opinion, the most challenging part of becoming successful. And the reason I say it's the most challenging part is because me, specifically as an individual, I like to be able to work. I like to be able to do things with my hands. I like to be able to physically watch the process happen. And for a lot of steps along this journey, you get to watch, you get to do things with your hands. But a very big part of becoming successful is just trusting that it's gonna happen, right? Because in reality, you don't know when it's gonna come. You don't know when you're gonna get the results. You don't know exactly how it's going to happen. And you really can't control that process. You can't control that part. You can't decide how it's gonna happen to you, when it's gonna happen to you. You don't get to make those decisions. You get the results based on the inputs that you put in. And so how do we actually trust the process and let things happen the way they need to happen, while also ensuring that we are going to achieve our goal, that we aren't working against our goal, or that we aren't procrastinating on the goal? Because that's the thing, we have to be able to work, but let the results take time, right? So we can't procrastinate on the results, we can't procrastinate on the work, but we have to let the results be a byproduct, and the byproduct is what we don't control. We cannot control when the results come in. So we have to be able to work and work and work and know that it's going to come eventually, but not be able to see those results right away. So the first section is why trying to control everything gives you less control. So this is something I learned recently with like a personal situation of mine, and it's the lack of control, right? You cannot control an outcome. And this is key, right? You have to be able to understand that you can control one thing and one thing only, and that is your input. That is what you choose to do and how you react to certain situations. You get to control your internal state, how you internally react to something, the emotional state of the emotional state and the mental state of your own being. And beyond that, there's not much you can control. Your actions. You can control your actions and what you do about a situation. Beyond those things, you have little to no control of an outcome. An example is when you're working to become successful and you're trying to make money, or you're working on that business, but you want to control the money. You want to figure out how you can just get money to come in right now. You can't control that part of the outcome. That's something that's going to happen as a result of you putting in the right amount of work. The thing you can control, however, is how much work that you do and how much you put in to that specific goal, that specific business, right? So when you try to control everything, when you try to control things externally, right, what you're doing is you're basically projecting out into the world that I need this thing that I'm trying to get, right? I need the money, I need the girl, I need the car, I need the freedom. You project that out into reality, into the world around you, when you are trying to control that external fixation, right? And when you do that, you take your power away from yourself and you give it to the external scenario, the external situation. And the reality is the world around us does not typically look the way we want it to look, right? The world around us does not easily reflect back to us the reality we want to live. And so when we focus externally, we lose the power that we have within to create that reality. And so what we do is we end up fixated on and wrapped up in the physical reality. And right now, the physical reality around us is showing us that we aren't successful, that we aren't making money, that we aren't going to be able to have the relationship we want, have the lifestyle we want. And so when we focus on these things externally and try to control them externally, we actually lose our ability to control anything, right? However, when we focus internally, we realize we don't have control over reality around us. We have little to no control over the world around us, but we have full control over our internal state, our mind, and the actions that we take. And so by focusing on that, by realizing and surrendering to the fact that we don't have control of the external, and then refocusing on the internal and controlling and mastering the internal, we then give ourselves the ability to reflect that reality externally. So we can't create it externally. We can't fixate on the external in order to change our external experience to have a specific kind of experience. We change our internal experience and we hold that to be true while reality molds itself and flexes around us in order to shape itself and orientate itself in a specific way based on the energetic signature that we are putting out. So the next thing to understand as far as having patience and trusting the process is trusting in universal law, and specifically the law of cause and effect, right? We understand that with a specific cause, there will be a specific effect, right? A specific action will lead to a specific byproduct of that action. So by understanding this, we can have full confidence in the fact that by putting out the right actions, right? By taking the right actions, by putting out the right causes, we can then have the correct effect. It's just going to be a matter of time. We don't have control over the effect. We have control over the cause. So if we think about it this way, we basically have to just understand that our inputs are enough, right? Let your inputs be enough. And this is a matter of understanding that the inputs are the only thing required for the goal, right? The only thing that you actually need to do is input the right inputs. And this doesn't just mean actions, right? This doesn't just mean working on the business. This means working on the business, having the right mentality about the business, having the right energetic signature that you're putting into the business, right? If you're putting energy of greed into the business, right? Because you want to make money, I want to make money. If that's what you're thinking about when creating whatever you're creating, it's going to reflect lack, right? So whatever energy you're putting out, that's going to be the cause of the effect. That is the energy that comes back in. So with this, you can trust that so long as you focus on your inputs and correct your inputs, you will be able to achieve the goal, whatever the goal is that you're trying to achieve. And so this is a very interesting topic and idea, but why success only comes to those who don't even need it, right? So why is it that success comes to those who don't need it, right? People who make a lot of money typically don't care about money. Why is this the case, right? Why is it that people who get successful typically don't seem like they need it? It's not because they didn't originally need it. It's because they have created an internal state of abundance. They no longer need the external reality to reflect anything back to them for them to be able to validate within themselves a level of abundance. And so for that, because that's the energy they put out into the world, that is the energy that's reflected back to them, right? That's what they receive back to them. And so when you don't need something, but you still work to align yourself with it, but you have this internal state that you don't need it, that you're already enough, right? You have the energetic signature required to achieve that thing, right? Because if you think of somebody who has made money already, they're not sitting there thinking about how badly they need money, yet they're making the most money. And that's because they have this internal state of abundance, and therefore what they put out into the world reflects a lot more abundance back to them. And this idea is playing on the law of magnetism, right? When we want to attract something to us, we cannot create a state that would repel it, right? So something like money is not attracted to the lack individual, the individual who is full of lack, who is full of greed, and who believes that they cannot make money or cannot be abundant, right? Money will not go to that person, right? That person will not be able to make money. Money would be attracted to the individual who has abundance, who is an abundant person. So the next thing ties us back to a similar point from earlier, but you can't control the outcome, but you can control what you put in, right? So what you put out, you can control, and that is all you can control. So when it comes to trying to be successful, you only need to focus on the inputs. You only need to focus on what you're actually going to put out into the world. And beyond that, there's not much you can control, right? You can set goals. You can create a mental state that says, I want to make this much money. But in reality, you can't control the exact outcome. However, if you identify, I want to make $1 million, well, what are the inputs that will get you $1 million? If you focus on those, you can definitely make $1 million. But if you focus on the $1 million, you won't get anywhere. And so that is all I have for this video. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Let me know anything you guys may have learned. And if you want to see more content like this, you could subscribe to the channel, or you can check out my TikTok and my Instagram, both of which are in the description below. But that's all I have for this one, and I hope you guys did enjoy. But I'm out of here. Peace.